Before we get started, I have a comment I'd like to read to you, and we thank you all for coming tonight, attending this meeting. It's fantastic to see so many members and taking an opportunity to take a part in the community business. Respectfully sharing of opinions and concerns is important to the governance of POA, Bella Vista POA. This meeting will be broadcast by public television. At last month's meeting, there was a problem with equipment. New equipment has been purchased and is in use tonight to ensure that there are no additional problems. During tonight's meeting, members of the POA will be given an opportunity to share their concerns and opinions. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. We already have 20-some signed up to speak, so it will be limited to 3 minutes tonight. So be aware of that when you come up to speak. You must be a member of the POA in order to speak this evening. I would like to make it very clear that this meeting will be conducted in an orderly and respectful manner. We will patiently listen to each other's concerns. If anyone in attendance is unable to conduct themselves in an orderly, respectful manner, they will be directed to leave the meeting. Okay. At this time, we call the meeting to order. If you'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll go ahead and approve the minutes for the September 20th and 27th. Doug?
Just before we get started, I'd like to announce that Jerry Hover has Mike Abbs proxy. Mike is not in attendance today. I'll entertain a motion to approve the September 20th, 2018 board work session meeting minutes.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? I'll entertain a motion to approve the September 27, 2018 Board of Directors regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay, well, that was out of the way. Dwayne, would you give us a financial report tonight, please?
How about this one?
Here we go. Okay, been a long day. This is the income statement September 2018 year to date. We'll start with the POA side. This is a snapshot of the gross profit compared to budget, $341,000 less. Past due collection is a positive in this number. Legal brought in 94%. Balance accounting. Investments is a negative. Less investments to invest, 61,000 down. Food and beverage down by 87. Golf down by 241, weather related. We've seen that every month. Looking at compared to prior year, food and beverage is a plus, 563,000. Lake Point had been open 5 months in 2017 at this point in time. Rebates down 93,000. We get a rebate every other year from Carroll Electric, and we got one in 2017. We expect to get another one in 2019. Past due collections down 122. Legal had a large windfall in 2017. And donations down 180. We got the Walton Skill Park donation of 170, and also the fishing dock from Fly Tires in the 2017. Investments down 442, less investments to invest compared to prior year. Looking at total operating expenses, 574,000 positive. Labor is 295,000 better due to savings in open positions. Maintenance and repairs, 190,000 savings. Equipment and tool savings, 125,000. And other combined divisional savings, 56,000. Health insurance is a negative, 169. We're self-funded. Looking at the prior year comparison, labor is up 810,000. Food and beverage is 54% of that number. Other budget changes across division make up the balance. Health insurance is 531,000. We had low claim years the first 9 months in 2017 as a comparison. Insurance is higher by 106. We had large credits in 2017 that we don't have this year. And utilities higher by 96. Again, food and beverage operation, 63%. Looking at the EBITDA, at the end of 9 months, POA running better than budget, $232,823. Looking at the water utility, same time frame, gross profit better by $697, a lot more growth, more usage, more connections. Looking at prior year, $402,000 better, growth again $548, and less investments $162,000. We're putting in all those water meter replacements. Looking at total operating expenses, $91,000 less than budget. Health insurance also on this side, $39,000, self-funded. Credit card charges, more people are paying with credit cards, $29,000 more than what we budgeted. And outside contracts, service contracts, $25,000. Looking comparison prior year, equipment and tools, 119 negative, small equipment purchases that weren't in 2017. Health insurance, 66,000 more self-funded. Labor, 61,000 open positions that were filled. And outside contracts, 23,000 again, service contracts. At the end of 9 months, the water utility is better than budget by $606,245. That concludes my report. Pending any questions.
If not, we'll move on. Last month, we had 9 individual residents who spoke or asked, had concerns or questions, and each of those were addressed last month and answered last month. So we're not going to go into those again tonight. And we do have about 25 people now that have signed up, so we will need to limit it to 3 minutes. If I mispronounce your name, I apologize beforehand. There's some writing up here I'm not sure I can decipher, but I'll try my best. Throne Donnell, I think it's first one.
I'm Theron Donnell. I'm from Pomona neighborhood. I'm also one of the co-founders of Bella Vista Heritage.
You need to move it up. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I'm also one of the co-founders of Bella Vista Heritage Group.
We're just holding.
Yeah. So last month, I asked the question about Mr. Brandenburg, and you all said that he didn't do anything wrong. Is that correct?
We addressed that last month. We'd gone through the procedure and found that it was inappropriate. He did not do anything wrong.
Okay, so why did he apologize?
Because he, at this point, felt that it was necessary for some of the people that he apologized.
Okay.
Sometimes we apologize for people, other people as well.
Okay. How long would you allow somebody to spend your money and take out loans without finding a different direction to go in? I'm asking a question.
I'd say no comment unless you cite something specific that we've looked at in the past.
Specifically, $800,000 loan that we shouldn't be having to take out.
And what specific topic are you talking about?
Has the board and Mr. Judson taken out an $800,000 loan from the water department?
Dwayne, why don't you answer that?
I'm sorry?
Dwayne's going to take care of that.
Dwayne is our treasurer.
Okay.
I've got one over here too.
We can stop my clock real quick. So. Here.
Does this one work? I don't know. That one.
It's not on.
Testing one. There we
There
go.
you go.
Well, keep in mind that the water and the POA are one entity at the end of the year. Going back over 2 decades, at times when cash was tight on the POA side or on the water side, funds have been borrowed. In every instance, these funds have been repaid with interest. At the time, the POA owes $800,000 to the water department, which is clear on the balance sheet. These funds were used to supplement our recent cash expenditures. The borrowing of funds at this time was anticipated 12 months ago. When I put the budget together, I planned to borrow $2.7 million, and it was pretty clear even to the board and to the public at that time that we didn't.
At what interest rate?
At 5%. We did it at Wall Street Journal Prime.
5% interest that we're having to pay out because you guys can't manage
we pay
a
it
budget.
to ourselves.
We're paying it to
We
ourselves.
pay it to ourselves.
We're paying it. It's a shortfall. You can't say that, hey, we can take out a loan, we're okay. It's 5% interest loan that we're having to pay back. Besides the point. If I can I see everybody's hands that's opposed to the trails? Adamantly opposed to the trails.
Let's ask for how many are.
If you will all look around and notice that most people are not opposed to the trails. Now let me see the hands of the people that are opposed to doing things irresponsibly and without membership's approval.
Did we get to ask how many people are in favor of the trails?
Yes, I did. By saying opposed, I don't have to ask who's in favor of it because obviously that's in favor of.
Some could be neutral.
How are you neutral? You're either one or the other. That's fine. So the point is that membership is concerned about your all's decision making, and we voiced that concern, but yet 0 people are saying, listen, we understand your concern. We're going to try to do something different. Let's figure out something together. But you all just go on down the road, hey, we're not going to do anything because we made that decision to the best of our ability, but now we have concerns, and nobody wants to listen. Nobody. Let me ask you another question real quick, and I'll be done with my questions. If you're losing $100,000 on something, when do you start reevaluating whether that's going to be profitable or not? If you're $100,000 over budget, which you already said you're going to have losses on a restaurant, when do you sit down and go, okay, we're not quite on track. We need to make sure that we're not going to sink in another $3 million into something we're already losing money on.
Before we started that, we gave target dates.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking when would you reevaluate if you're well under budget or well over budget of what you're doing?
Since we've set target dates, I would guess that we would do it after the 3rd year and
Right,
then
so
say
three
whether
years.
we're there or not.
And this is the reason why you're having to borrow $800,000 from the water department at 5%. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is it Natasha Brand? Natasha Brand, is that correct? Thank you. Just pull it out if you want to. Just pull it out, it's fine.
Is that okay? Can you hear me okay?
You need to speak right into it.
Okay. My name's Natasha Brand. I'm a Bella Vista Trail user.
Speak up a little bit. Speak up a little more.
A little bit more? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, I'm a Bella Vista resident and I'm a regular trail user. I just wanted to address some concerns about the trail tonight. I'm actually a researcher for the University of Arkansas in outdoor recreation and sustainability, and we've been working with the city for the last 10 months on trail research, looking at the benefits of the trail for the community. So the survey was sent out on social media over a period of 2 weeks and asked opinions of trail users about how they felt about the trails. There's a couple of things that I wanted to address to the concerns on social media, and one of those was the tax dollars that our trail users spending in Bella Vista as opposed to the neighboring towns. The survey showed that 83% of the responses were people eating locally in Bella Vista, 23% camped locally, and 47% were shopping locally here. So we had an average overnight spend of $217. The second concern I wanted to address that we've been hearing a lot on social media is that the locals are not using the trails. 80% of the regular users actually live in Bella Vista zip codes. So I know that's a small amount of info because we don't have a lot of time today, but the report is going to be available on the city website next week. So if you guys have any questions about that survey and you want to know any information, I have the report with me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Pyatt. Tom Pyatt.
Hey, Tom.
Just pull it out. Just pull it out. Just pull it out.
All right. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you, Board, for giving this opportunity to all of us in the room. Pros and cons. I know I was up there once, so I know what it feels like to sit in front of this room. And it isn't easy, and their pay doesn't go up very much, so I personally appreciate it. I'm here tonight to just make a few comments that I hope are helpful to the board and to some of the others in the room. How many of you in this room have been in the village more than 5 years? Yeah, it looks like about half and half. The reason I ask about 5 years is I'm going to talk about trails a little bit. And the history of trails go way back. Some of you who have been here less than 5 years have heard some things, and some of the rest of us who have been here, I've been here 18 years, have heard a lot more and maybe have a little more history. What I just want to talk about, though, is the involvement here with the current construction that's going on and the Back 40. Those two projects I was personally involved with because I was part of the Bella Vista Foundation, and we accepted a grant from the Walton Family Foundation to do a master plan. That was our contribution to what you're seeing today in trails. There was about 150 miles of trails that we used a contractor for almost a year to get to the public input on that. We had 2 meetings, one in the beginning and one at the end. We had a survey. We had involvement with public places. I guess my bottom line here is that everybody that wanted to at that point had something to say or a concern that they expressed. And I can tell you, we and our contractor listened to those. Now, I have to say at the same time, when we did this plan, everybody wanted trails. And I say everybody, there might have been a couple people that didn't, but it was the impetus was to get it done and not to decide whether we wanted to do it or not. I plead guilty in that regard because when we got enthused about it, we just felt like the trails were the thing to do. They'd already done trails at Glowing Springs. They'd done Loch Lomond. They'd done Tanyard Creek. People on surveys were saying, we want trails closer to our homes. So that was our goal. The plan had some issues with it. Some of those issues came out of the public forums that we had. We had workshops where people could get to the maps and look at places. This was a plan that was done with kind of, I'll call it a 20,000-foot look. Until you got to the engineering on the ground, you couldn't really resolve some of the issues about not in my backyard or concerns about being close to the homes and so forth.
Can you wrap it up, Tom?
Pardon?
Can you wrap it up?
Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you. It was a 20-year plan for all 150 miles, which was a long time. In 5 years, we've accomplished, I say we, the Trailblazers, with money from external sources, have accomplished almost 60% of that, counting what's being built now. So, yeah. However, I have to say, on the maintenance side,
Tom?
You probably have about 10 cents a month coming out of your own pocket in the POA for the maintenance. Thank you, Board.
Randy Ham. Excuse me. Randy Ham has the floor, please. Randy Ham has the floor.
You had your turn. It's my turn. I know, but I was going to wait until you were finished. Okay, good. As she said, I'm Randy Ham. I've lived here 4 years. We bought a home chasing grandkids in retirement, which many of you probably have done. I'm here to talk about trails briefly, and I'd like to wear 2 hats. First hat is my volunteer hat. I'm the chairman of the group that maintains Tanyard Creek. It's all volunteers, all retirees. During good weather months, we're out there once a week and doing projects and cleaning up trash. And we all understand that Tanyard Creek is one of the places where the public is not discouraged from coming. It's one of the open parts of Bella Vista. Nobody checks your ID card or your membership card. And I can speak for our volunteers and that our attitude is we welcome visitors. We hope that some of those visitors might move here someday. We think that Tanyard Creek is one of the most beautiful things we have to offer, and we're proud of it. and we work hard and put our sweat in to keep it nice. My second hat is as an individual. I have walked every inch of the back 40 and Blowing Springs and the trails above Bella Vista Lake, which I understand are not in Bella Vista. Multiple times, hundreds of miles. I had a heart attack about 2 years ago, and they taught me after that that exercise is medicine. And so that's where I get my medicine. I'm out there 4 or 5 times a week. Love the fact that the most beautiful parts of our community, which are virtually inaccessible to us until somebody builds a trail, are accessible. And I'll close with this. The fact that it's impractical to gate off those trails doesn't bother me. I've seen people there from all over the country. They're all polite. No one has run me over with a bicycle. They're great, and I'm glad we have them. And I don't know the legalities and the ins and outs of whether we should have voted on them. That I don't know. I hope maybe the board will address that sometime. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rick McInnes, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Hi, folks. Rick McInnes. I live in Highlands in the Rothbury subdivision and spent some time talking with Judson over the years. I would like to address a few things that have already been addressed in the past, but what about the liability issues we as a POA open ourselves up to by having outsiders, in fact, anybody coming in and using these trails? This is America, and we all know that you're guilty for my negligence. So if I get on the trails and damage myself because the turn was too tight or wasn't marked properly and I decide that I want the money that Bella Vista has, what do we have in the way of liability insurance to cover that? Second thing, I'm a boat owner, a kayak owner. I have to put a sticker on my boat, and yeah, I have to pay the fees to go on out there and use the lakes, and I enjoy all that. Why can't we have stickers on bicycles so that people have to come on in, register their bicycles, pay a yearly fee just like I do with my boat, and then get on our trails? And I know that there's some law enforcement issues, who's going to find them if they're out there without their sticker and stuff, but those are issues that I think we could address. I understand there's a big mountain biking event coming in December, I think, and they're promoting that ferociously, and they're thanking our mayor, Christie, for opening up Bella Vista for the biking event when I think he has nothing to do with it. I think it more has to do with we, the POA, allowing people to come in and use our bike trails. I think we're sitting on a golden egg down there in Blowing Springs. If we're going to have these mountain biking events, certainly we ought to be charging people to use our venue and then get on our trails. And then we can open that up to vending and everything else and bring more business in town. The other thing I have a real problem with is, because I'm really a cheap guy, is that I pay my POA dues religiously to use POA facilities. I don't like other people coming into our town using facilities that are POA properties without paying. Again, it's another enforcement issue, but since we seem to be having a cash flow issue at the moment, maybe we ought to be looking at maybe putting somebody on sitting in one spot checking trail license stickers or something. Or maybe we need to work on getting a POA promotions committee together to start sponsoring and bringing more events in, but getting money out of these events instead of letting them use our facilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll respond to the liability issue there. The trail usage falls under what's called the Arkansas Recreational Use Statute, which absolves us of liability as long as we don't charge fees to use the trails. So, I don't say that in a negative way. That's one of the requirements of the statute. So,
next up is Marion Heath. Quiet, please.
Can I take this out?
Sure.
Hi, thank you very much for your service. You're doing something I would never, ever I'll speak into it. You are doing something I would never do. I volunteer in the community. When we came here, we lived in Hawaii for 18 years, and when we arrived here, we felt an aloha the first day we arrived. Total strangers, they didn't know where we were visiting from, but the embrace was wonderful, and that embrace is still here. I've involved myself in the community by doing volunteer work, being on committees, and interacting with business people. What I value the most are the people here in the community, so I do want to hear from all these other people because they do give us another side to hear from. But here is what my point is. We have the ground rules, and you can tell me the right name of it, but it's the original documents that were written for Bella Vista. Before people even bought land here, you all are very familiar with it. And I know you have an attorney that's on your staff that guides you through all this. It's just common sense to me that you would not go up against anything that's written in those rules. And I'm constantly reading on the internet, and mainly in the Facebook, that we are seeing people blaming the POA for doing illegal things. So here's my suggestion, and I don't know how much you want to take it, but we not only have Facebook to use to get that message out, and you are using your Facebook POA to get a lot of good messages out, but let's put it in the newspaper and let's address the individual things. I heard it tonight. They're blaming the POA for not following certain guidelines, and the guidelines are things that you folks know. And when I read those guidelines, I don't think I'm a most brilliant person, but I have to tell you, I don't understand it. And so people who are interpreting it are spreading the word in the media, telling them what their interpretation of it is. And I would like to see people who have authority, attorneys know how to read it, and attorneys can give it our translation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Charles Leffler, please. He's going to pass. Okay. Robert Stock, would that be correct? Okay.
Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Robert Stock. My wife and I have lived here in the village for 23 years. I've talked both of my daughters and their families to move here. I've got 5 grandkids. We use the pontoon boats. We've used the trails. We use a lot of things. Bella Vista, I love it. The problem I think people are having is expenses. Last year, golf lost $2.5 million for about 12 or 15% of the population that live here. The trails, they take what? 0.1%? I don't understand why no one's over here pounding the table and talking about expenses. I've spoken to Mr. Judson on a number of occasions, and he starts every meeting, very nice. Everything we do here in Bella Vista loses money. Well, the question is why? Because Mr. Judson allows it. I don't have a voice in that. And I understand being on the POA board, hands down, the world's worst job. I mean, I feel sorry for you. No one loves you. Everyone likes to take pot shots at you. But the problem of it is that in 10 years, you're going to lose $22.5 million in golf alone. 10 years. You have a young guy in charge of golf, pay him $80,000, $100,000 a year. So in 10 years, you're going to pay a guy $1 million to lose $22.5 million. Now, come on now. I mean, and you could say the same thing with restaurants. They lose $1 million a year. In 10 years, you're going to pay a guy $1 million to lose $10 million. You have to get a handle on expenses. Unfortunately, you people on the board are supposed to be good stewards of the financial responsibilities of the village. But losing money after money after money, the problem with golf is golf right now is $41 to play golf. I play golf. I was a golf course superintendent for 25 years. I can't play golf in the village because it's too expensive. But why is it too expensive? Because you've got probably 3, if not 4, golf courses extra that you don't need. Each golf course right now probably averages about 22,000 rounds of golf from the golfers here in the village. And if you looked at the number of golf courses, I think the USGA calls for 40,000 rounds of golf per golf course to maintain optimum maintenance standards. But you don't have that here. You've got 20,000 rounds of golf for a very, very select group of individuals that are taking all the money. And I don't understand why, the trails, I don't have a problem with the trails, but they're like 1/10 of 1% of the budget.
Can you wrap it up, please?
I'm going to wrap it up. There you go. So expenses, $22.5 million in 10 years just in golf. Pay a guy $1 million to lose $22.5 million. I mean, if I said I had a company that we need to invest in, would anybody at the table invest in that? Of course you wouldn't. You would say they had like great management?
Thank you.
I'm done. Thank you.
This next one, I apologize before I start because I have no idea what the name is. I think it's DUKNS. Give me a hint. No. Okay, no. Let's skip that one and we'll hit the next one, then come back with somebody and figure out who it is.
Jim Klingler.
What?
Jim Klingler.
This one.
I know, I can't get it.
Oh, let's go Jim Klingler. We can't figure out who the other one is. Yeah, starts with a D. DUKNS. Are you Jim?
Yes, I am.
Good, thank you.
My name is Jim Klinger, and my wife and I moved here in September. So we're new residents. However, we are returning residents. We lived here in 2005 and 2006, and after that, we left for careers and came back to the area as a place to retire. And we did so because we came back and saw what it had become, and one of the primary drivers for both of us were the trails. And what we have found on the trails here in Bella Vista are truly some of the best designed and maintained trails that I've ridden. And I've ridden all over the country, and I've ridden in Europe. And these are absolutely fabulous trails and should be something that everyone who gets a chance to and can get out and enjoy, because these are something that are a real gem for the city. And I think it is something that we are having a voice being heard around the country right now by a lot of folks coming to the area that would come here to see the trails. I've come across folks from Washington, Texas, Virginia on the trails as I've been out riding. And we're out there probably 4 to 5 days a week, both of us. My wife primarily hikes and I bike. So I want to just kind of give a thumbs up to the trails and to everything that's being done in Bella Vista, and I think what it's doing to enhance its image around the country. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Wells family. Good job.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wes Wells. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Melissa, Tegan, and Trayton. And we're originally here from Montana. We were going to come here just for school. I'm a nurse anesthetist at Mercy Rogers. She's an occupational therapist at a pediatric clinic downtown Rogers as well. We were going to come down here, do school, head back home, but we fell absolutely head over heels in love with Northwest Arkansas. Bella Vista is wonderful. We all agree that the trails are awesome, correct? But something that I've seen on social media is there's concern about relationship to where it is with houses. Well, we bought our house on Blowing Springs, and we have a trail in our backyard. We loved it so much, we bought a lot to the left and a lot to the right of us. So we have 3 lots with trails through it. And I want to say we have never once had any negative outcomes from this. It's been wonderful. We've never had strangers on our land, never felt unsafe with my children outside playing. it's been wonderful. I mean, it's a blessing to my children, to my wife. I have spent 535 hours on my bike this year. Yeah.
I'll just steal it from him real quick. As a mother, I just will add, because I know a lot of people have children or grandchildren, but it's brought our family closer together because we get home and the kids put their bike stuff on. They don't turn the TV on. They don't grab a gaming system. Do we own a gaming system?
No.
Do we watch TV very much, ever?
No.
What do we do together, guys?
Bike. Bike.
So I just encourage everybody to be on the trail. It's a lifetime fitness, and we're getting to build that for our children. They're getting to have a skill that they can have a lifetime of fitness and responsibility. They trail work. So not only for this younger generation, a lot of them do spend a lot of hours on TV. I'm not going to pull the statistics out there, but gaming TV time is huge. And this generation is getting lazy, I'll say that. But the small population of kids that are getting active, we can get them out there. NICA requires 10 hours of service. For those of you that don't know, NICA is a high school competition, and they are a biking team. And so they get out there and they have to do 10 hours of trail work, every single child on the team. And so they're learning to get out there and work and wield a shovel and build self-esteem.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Brad Melton. Brad Melton, okay.
Thank you. My name is Brad Melton, and like my Roger, I'm also a 23-year resident in Bella Vista, so congratulations to you too. Yeah, hey, that's almost a quarter of a century that we have been Bella Vista residents. Oh my gosh, yeah. So while I'm excited, almost a quarter of a century, right? I want to apologize. I want to apologize to you, the board, and to my fellow POA members that I'm a little ashamed to say this is my very first board meeting I've ever attended.
We appreciate that.
And I hope going forward that just not myself, and I commit I'm going to be much more involved in the board meetings, in all things Bella Vista from now on. But I would hope a lot of my fellow members would commit to that as well. We always see such a great turnout like we do. And I also want to thank you, board. I think that's at the top of my mind right now. You all have a very difficult job. And being here like Roger, almost a quarter of a century, you hear a lot of things. You're up against a lot of different opinions, and it's difficult to please everyone. And I appreciate your dedication to that, and all those who came before you throughout the years. Thank you for that. I'm a trail lover. I'm a volunteer helping out with the trails. I get to get out and maintain a lot of this beautiful gift that we've been given, and it is truly a gift. And I thank everyone involved in making those decisions to give us these trails. I understand the concerns that many have, though, as well, of how decisions might be made. And I think a lot of that, I think nearly all of that has to do with the miscommunication, misunderstanding. I have full faith that nothing has been done illegally by the board. I know a lot of people involved in these decisions, and by golly, they don't go running around doing willy-nilly stuff. And I appreciate y'all that for the tough work that y'all do. And I just want to say for a lot of my peers, a lot of my fellow members who have been concerned of things like, it just seems like they don't agree with a lot of decisions been made over the years, or there's money being lost in a lot of our facilities, whether it's golf or new restaurants and such. I just want to thank you all again, and I think a lot of my peers who have those type of concerns should finally stand up and say, thank you for getting it right. Thank you for bringing these trails that cost us less than less than 1/10 of a percentage of the entire budget it's costing to maintain these trails going forward, and it's almost a complete net gain. We're bringing value into this community, And we're not just enjoying it, but there is a tremendous money-making opportunity. And I would wager it's far beyond any other type of benefit that we ever get here in Bella Vista. So thank you for getting it right. I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Next up, we have Joy Thomas Sawyer.
Well, I have a couple of questions going back to the money. Last month when we were here, we expressed, and with Mr. Judson at the city meeting, we expressed a concern about the board just borrowing money from the water utility. And we expressed that there's not enough transparency between the board and the membership about things like that. And yet, we had a meeting last month and nobody mentioned it, and it just shows up on the budget. So I think that that's interesting because, again, it's just no transparency. I don't know what member functions are. Can you tell me what member functions are? That was a line on the budget, and it doesn't seem like anybody knows what that is.
You're talking about a line on the balance sheet. Member functions?
Yes.
Member functions is money paid to us that hasn't been used yet. So it's just, it's like a potential sale, but right now it's a liability because we haven't got the benefit of the sale yet.
Okay. We needed that clarified because nobody knew what that was.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me to just inquire about the stump dump and what's going on with the stump dump. There are still people who are having, really hard time in that area with the smell. It continues to burn. We know that ADEQ and the EPA are involved, but Brown's Tree Service specifically has been seen dumping there. So currently, they're still dumping. And so at what point are we going to stop dumping, and at what point are we going to fix the problem? I don't think that the POA has the money to pay somebody. So I don't know to work with ADEQ or whoever, so I hope our attorney can maybe kind of juggle that around because we're obviously broke.
Well, no, we're not broke, but let me
close.
address no, we're not close either. But from what I've been told, I met with the mayor yesterday. Brown's Tree Service is dumping sand to try and control the underground fire. They're not dumping additional waste material.
Okay, that's not what people are seeing. So that may be what the mayor is being told, but that's not what the community is seeing happen.
If you are seeing anything, if they are dumping anything in there, I recommend that they contact the city as soon as possible.
Okay, is that what they're going to do, is just dump sand on it to stop the
That is
burning?
a question for Brown's Tree Service and the city. The POA is not involved in that situation at all.
Okay.
Thank you. Leslie Lampo. Hopefully that's correct.
Okay. I've heard all this about how wonderful the trails are, and I'm glad that they're just wonderful and everybody loves them. But that's irrelevant. That's absolutely irrelevant. The point is not how much you enjoy them, how wonderful they are, and how you can get out there and ride them, and how your kids love them, and all that kind of stuff. How they're not watching TV and all that kind of stuff, and they aren't a gift to us. They're not a gift to us. They're a gift to everybody who doesn't live here, because we're paying for them. They're in our backyards. They're on our common property, and we didn't get to vote on it. That's the issue, not how wonderful they are. That's the issue, not how great they are to ride and how we meet people from all over the world on them. We didn't get to vote on them. That's the issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
We talked about at last month's meeting that, it was brought up that there was no vote, and I read from the declaration that, there was no dedication or transfer to the city, so that a vote wasn't required under the declaration.
Excuse me. Excuse me. She asked the question. The gentleman's trying to answer the question. It's between these two at this point. Well, at this time, we're going to assume that he's telling it correctly. We're going to move on. Mary Shalaka? Shalaka. Okay.
Mary Shalacy, and I live in the Highlands.
Sorry about that.
I was here last month as well, and I asked Ms. Hatcher to clarify the declarations, and I did receive a response. The history of our home purchase is we came up here for about 2.5 to 3 years, every 4 to 5 months, looking at property until we found our house. Our house we purchased in 2012. In your response to me on October 1st, Ms. Hatcher, you referenced a resort destination experience. In all those years of looking for property here, and then purchasing our property in 2012, the words resort destination experience were never said until last year. However, before we purchased our property, we received our governing documents. I reviewed all of them. Our declarations are clear. Nowhere are the words resort destination experience in those declarations. They set out the rules that our property is to be used for. Resort also signifies someone paying money to stay here and have guest passes. How does the board equate resort guests to carloads of teenagers from Bentonville, Springdale, or Rogers coming to use our amenities? As for Mr. Cash's response, he also used resort destination, and he tried to clarify the declarations after the dedicated or transfer part. You missed a little bit. It also says, quote, no determination as to the purposes or as to the conditions thereof, end quote, without a vote of 51% of membership. You say a license agreement absolves this board of a vote. But isn't that what a license agreement does? It sets out the determination and purpose of property and how it can be used. So there's two parts to our declarations. The members were deserved a vote on this issue. You obviously disagree. You also state the policy change was introduced in 2007, the guest policy. That was the same time the city was voted in. And it allowed the Bella Vista POA to act as a member and sponsor regular guests. How does any member of the public that wants to use our member amenities be defined as a regular guest?
Can you wrap this up, please?
Absolutely. All of this tonight, all of these people here, and all of this contention has been caused by this board. You have torn our community apart.
Thank you.
We have people.
Can we wrap this, please?
I will.
You're considerably over your time.
Today, total strangers called me
I'm going to
lazy,
have to
dumbass,
ask you to allow us to have the next person up.
and that we were not, and he wanted to vote us out.
Jim Dinwiddie, would you stand? Would you come up, please? She's done talking for this evening. Thank you. Jim, you have the floor at this time.
Thank you. My name is Jim Dinwiddie. We're longtime residents of Bella Vista. I'm here to offer a suggestion on a way to make our trail system revenue neutral. My dad taught me that never complain about a problem unless you've got a couple potential solutions. So
I'm not a biker. I wish I was. I wish I would have started it much younger in my life. But I do hike the trails from time to time. I'm a golfer, but I have encountered many users of the trails, and I have found them to a person to be friendly, polite, respectful, and an absolute joy to be around. And I welcome the bikers and all trail users to our community, and I commend our community for making those resources available. I do feel if we haven't already, we should look into potential ways to making the trails revenue neutral for us and for the city, because at this point in time, as I understand it, we are to pay the annual, our share of the annual maintenance and upkeep costs of the trails, about $35,000 to our budget and $35,000 to the city, as I understand it. And I do not favor trying to enforce or administer user fees for the trails. I think it's unfeasible, and frankly, I don't think it's wise. But one of the things I've not heard us talk about is how we might encourage voluntary contributions or donations to the trail system. And thank you. I've done some very tops of the waves preliminary research into how we might use technology to accomplish this. Of course, simple solution is to put a cash box of some sort at each trailhead, but that's an invitation for vandalism and theft and would require manpower resources to collect the cash at the end of every day. It's just not workable. But I think using technology, there are a couple of things that I came across that might be worth looking into, and I'd be more than happy to talk with the board in more particular about each one. One of them is a product called Dip Jar. It's a product that's been available since 2014. It is widely used by nonprofits and for organizations for generating in-person contributions on the spot. It's a device about the size of a roll of paper towels. It's an electronic device. All it is a card reader. And if it was done properly at each trailhead, you could have one of these devices in a small kiosk. All a user would have to do, if they felt compelled to make a contribution to the maintenance and upkeep of the trails, would simply be to slide their credit or their debit card for a specific predetermined amount of contribution. Maybe it's $1, maybe it's $2, no more than $5.
Can you wrap?
Yes, I can. The other one is the utilization of QR codes. Those are those funny little square boxes with the barcodes. There is a way that you can take your smartphone and scan that, take you directly to a page on the Bella Vista website where you could use any number of services like Apple Pay or PayPal to make a contribution. So I think that's something that we might want to look at.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next up, I have a Jenny Burkbridge. Jenny Burkbridge. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I did not see you.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Burbidge. You're pretty close. I'm a Bella Vista resident.
Right into the mic, if you would, please.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right. My name is Jenny Burbidge. I'm a Bella Vista resident, a POA member, and I live on 14 Holloway Drive. And first, I'd like to thank the board for their dedication and service to our community. The effort and the time you sacrifice does not go unnoticed. The improvements in the last 2 years to our facilities, playgrounds, golf courses, they represent your commitment to the growth of local businesses and the quality of life for our residents. With the increased criticism of the board, I'm here to tell you that there are people in our community that truly appreciate everything you do and that support the board, and I'm not the only one. Now to get into a few of the specifics, and I'll do my best to keep these brief. We touched a little bit at the last meeting on using the POA-owned lots for votes. And it's my opinion that the POA-owned lots should not be used in efforts to meet a quorum. And please correct me.
We're going to discuss that later this evening.
Perfect. Please correct me if I misunderstood the discussion from the last meeting, but reaching a quorum was not a problem in the last vote. And the idea to use the lots as votes was an effort to ensure that the cost of a second election would not be necessary if a quorum was not met. I completely respect the budgetary conscience, but given the vote numbers have not been an issue historically, and that there's a small probability that a 50-50 vote could sway the vote, as alluded to in the last meeting, which you guys can expand on later, I strongly suggest that the board not use the POA-owned lots as votes. In agreement with Ms. Ingens's comments last meeting, the perception of this decision is something to carefully consider. Next, touching on the assessment increase, I can confidently say I'll be voting yes for the assessment increase. The material, and I want to compliment the materials that you have produced and the outreach you guys done to illustrate how the assessment dollars will be used for our village. And it's really exciting to me personally, and I would hope that it would enthuse the community. The maintenance and renovations of our existing facilities, along with the new innovative programs, are key to our growth and will increase the POA fee base. I consider our current monthly assessment affordable, and I'm willing to pay the additional fee to help not stunt the growth of our community. And lastly, to touch on the trails being open to the public, I'd like to share a perspective of trails that will hopefully shed a different light on their use. The trails that are being built are not small internal loops for a singular neighborhood. These trails are regional paths that connect a bigger community of Northwest Arkansas. Trails are an essential piece in the hierarchy of transportation infrastructure within a community. And with the heavy traffic arteries splitting the middle of our town, these secondary and tertiary paths offer an alternative to help alleviate this congested condition.
Okay.
Trails.
Can we wrap, please?
Yep, almost done. Trails, being part of the city's infrastructure, should be open to the public. I believe, and I have seen how trails benefit our community, our children, our mental health, our economic growth, our property values, and I'm a strong supporter of the trails continuing to grow in Bella Vista. And thank you again for your service.
Thank you. Oh, Rita Schumacher. Rita Schumacher. Okay.
So, I'm new to Bella Vista. We've owned a lot for about 10 years, but
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I'm new to Bella Vista. We've owned a lot for about 10 years, but we just moved here about a year ago, and we just happened to come to, I guess, one of your first really rambunctious meetings. So with that being said, I do have a few things that I would like to understand better. Number one is the voting of your lots, and I know you guys postponed it last month, with not being able to reach an agreement. And I really urge you guys, you board members, to reach an agreement, because until you do, everything else is in limbo. Because
we're going to issue that. We'll address that issue tonight.
I know you've already said that, but what I'm saying is, please come to an agreement.
Okay.
The other thing is I want to say is your improvements that you've done are really nice, but at what expense? I mean, we should do a little bit of an improvement, not drain everything. And the biggest concern I had was about the $800,000 that was put on the books. And my biggest problem with that is that last month we were well into September, and Mr. Judson said that by the end of the year he was going to borrow against the water. And I feel that at that time he already knew he had borrowed again from the water. And if he would have been more transparent on that, I think that would have stopped a lot of heartache. Just that little word, I've already borrowed $800,000. That would have been stopped so much ill will towards you, I guess, for lack of better understanding. And the final thing I had, which was more of a question, is what steps, and I think somebody did address it, but from the board, what steps were taken prior to building the trails to let everybody know that the trails were coming in? Because I just lived in Centerton, and for the last 5-6 years, that's every board meeting I went to, which I didn't go to everyone, but I went to many, that's what was talked about. So I feel that, did you guys present that? Was it, coming down the strength, or did these guys not have any say in it at all? And that's purely a question because I wasn't here.
Okay, we'll address that. That's just this time.
So, let me end.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, earlier Tom Pyatt was speaking on behalf of the Bella Vista Foundation, but there were community meetings held. Now, I was not here at that time, but I've seen the documentation that there was public meetings held in December of 13, August of 14, and April of 15 to solicit input from the community regarding the trails.
Ken Taylor, please. Excuse me, sir. Ken Taylor has the floor. Excuse me. Ken Taylor has the floor. Could I ask you, please, to not interrupt other people? You are interrupting. Ken, go ahead.
I'm Kellen Taylor. I live off of Cooper. I have 4 kids, ages 6.
Closer.
I have 4 kids, ages 6 to 16. I help coach a NICA mountain bike team, middle school and high school, so 6th grade to 12th grade. I just wanted to come here and offer my support for the trails, my family's support for the trails here. Our students' support for the trails. We have many of our kids. I work and volunteer for the team at Pea Ridge, but many of our students live here in Bella Vista, and our team has adopted a 2-mile stretch on the back 40 from the Bella Vista Community Church down to the bridge by the stoplight there. That's what we maintain that. It's an awesome. It's a great experience for those kids to get out there and enjoy the trails and then give back and help maintain them. So I just want to offer support for that. Again, as I was saying earlier, the idea of having all these beautiful spots in Bella Vista is communal property, and having us be able to access it to these trails, whether hiking or biking, is just a wonderful opportunity for us.
Thank you. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. The next one is Kelly, Losan. Kelly L. Okay. As I said, I apologize. Okay.
Cowan.
Oh.
Okay, I wasn't really coming prepared.
Right into it.
I wasn't really coming prepared to talk tonight, but I've been here a couple years, and just listening to the things that people have on their concerns and stuff, it seems like a big part of it is the fee portion of bringing in money through the trails and also the voting part. And I haven't read
Just a minute.
And I haven't read.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I haven't read all the rules and regulations regarding what has to be voted on by the members public, so this might be a very ignorant statement, but my understanding is that you guys were put in this position to make a lot of these decisions for us, and so to me, whether or not we were not able to vote, I feel like there's a lot of decisions made in government that I don't have a say in, but I was able to vote that person into their place. But again, I haven't seen. But again, I haven't read the rules and regulations. I think some of the things that could bring more revenue into Bella Vista would be to have increased lodging, because trails and mountain biking is growing in this area like crazy, and there are a ton of events coming into town, and we're really missing out by not having more places for people to stay here and more awesome places for people to eat here. I will admit I haven't made it out to the Lakeview restaurant. It takes me 20 minutes to get there, but you know what? It takes me 20 minutes to get into Bentonville too. So it's really a change of idea of using the things that are local here, and I would like to get more people to do that. Additionally, someone had commented on a bunch of kiddos coming and riding out here. Well, you know, a lot of the kids that ride on the teams in Bentonville live in Bella Vista. This is their school district, and so they are also able to use them. And then the last thing I wanted to say is people were saying about they pay their membership fees and they want to be the ones to use them. Well, I have my picture ID card, but I would be hard pressed to find a resource here that I don't still have to pay an additional fee for. So we're not losing money. The trails are open and it's awesome. It brings people here and people are able to connect that way. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Next up is a Nick Hodge. Nick Hodge. Okay. I hope it's Hodge.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Nick Hodge. Been a Bella Vista resident for 13 years. So I just wanted to talk to a use case of the trails that we haven't really heard a lot tonight. And that would be just the stickiness of Bella Vista. So somebody who's lived here as long as I have kind of saw Bentonville explode with recreation, amenities, just easy, accessible things. Bella Vista kind of was lagging a little bit. So about 3 years ago, my wife and I were looking to buy our forever home, and we just couldn't find the place to live. We're like, Bentonville, we got to go to Bentonville. And then all of a sudden, these trails come, and now we're stuck. We can't leave. So we bought our forever home on Fulbourn Lane. We'll be here forever, hopefully. So thank you for the support of the trails. Another use case, that guy over there with the white hair, my dad. We got him to move up here from Texas.
Good job.
Yep. And now, sorry, I hate this many people. It's hard for me. But my kids can ride their bikes to his house. And just the most amazing thing for this community where we don't have accessible sidewalks, it's hard to get around. They can safely ride to his house on the trails. So it's a good thing for our family, and we appreciate it. So that's it.
Thank you. The next one, the last name is Weaver, N-E-N-E Weaver. Is that close? Thank you. And a little one.
I'm going to have my husband speak because I'm too nervous.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Guy Weaver. We are the Weaver family. We live in Bentonville. We lived here in Bella Vista 5 years ago. We own 2 lots here only because of the trails.
Thank you.
Right? And that's the reason we bought the lots. And we are going to build our forever home on the trails because our kids are able to share that.
Take over now. And so our point is wherever our lives take us, we will come back to Bella Vista because it's really special. And there's no one we've ridden all over the nation and there's nowhere like it. And we're really proud of the trails. We were proud of Tanyard Creek when we had friends and relatives visit. We were proud of Blowing Springs. And now we're proud of these trails that we have right now. There's nowhere like it, and I love the direction that Arkansas is going towards. The state of Arkansas state parks, Siloam Springs, Fayetteville, Fort Smith, Bentonville, and now Bella Vista. We all have world-class trails that are so special. We, in the community, not only that, we maintain them. We volunteer to maintain them. We volunteer to help each other on the trails. Recently, we did have that great national race here. One of the pro riders wrote this great commentary that said there was nowhere like it. Bentonville and Bella Vista, people were helping him. People were friendly. And that's the community that's very special that we love and that will always bring us back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Becky Neal. Becky Neal. Okay.
Thank you. I just want to say, this is really nerve-wracking, by the way.
Right into the mic if you would.
Okay, my name is Becky Neal. My husband is David Neal, and we have lived in Bella Vista now for over 15 years. The reason why we chose Bella Vista when we moved to Northwest Arkansas is because we could afford a lot and still have, without having to buy a lot of property because we couldn't afford a great deal of property. And we liked that it was private. We liked that the common property was behind our house. we did buy the lot next to us as well to also have that privacy. So I do understand completely the concerns that many people in Bella Vista have, that they moved here, they wanted the privacy, that, you know, part of the common property draw was that they did have this, you know, the privacy that they have. And so in my heart, I understand why some people are upset about something that's new, that's coming in with these trails and the possibility of them going behind their house. I get it. But also being part of the biking community, I would love to have a trail behind my house. This is our forever home. We've been here over 15 years. We're here in Arkansas. We are the owners of Mojo Cycling. I'm also a school teacher in Rogers. And thank you. And I coach the Rogers Nike team. Because I know the biking community, I know that I'm not at all concerned. As private as I am, absolutely, I would love a trail behind my house because I know that this is not an issue that I would have to worry about. But I also realize that some of the loud minority doesn't represent everyone out there. I do feel that at times people insist that they say it's because of this that they didn't have the vote, this 50, you know, the vote that was required, and I don't know enough about it, honestly, to be able to have a say on it, and I admit that. However, you know, some of these same people that insist that that's why they're so upset, they're some of the meanest people with some of the comments that they've made, and it's clear that they don't like bikers. You know, we've had people post a photo of our private residence on Facebook. We've had people say that, you know, oh, we'll accidentally shoot people that are out riding their bikes. It's crazy. And so people that insist this, trust me, I understand. I'm there. I bought in Bella Vista because of the privacy. But, well, I'm not looking at anyone in particular. But there are comments and there are things that have been posted that go against what people are actually saying. You know, you can say one thing, but your actions and your words are certainly saying
Can you wrap?
So much more. So
can you wrap it?
Yes, I will wrap it up. Of course, I'm in favor of the trails. I love it. I really like the suggestion of a donation box. What a great idea. Let's bring in some revenue, more revenue to Bella Vista.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come at this time. If your initials are DD, that would be you. I'd love to find out what your name is.
David Dixon.
Okay.
And my mountain bike nickname is Double D.
Oh, okay.
But,
None of us won the pool.
I think everything that I was going to say has already been said. I love mountain biking. If I didn't, I'm 60 years old, and Jim Dimwoody, you're not too old. I'm going to come by and pick you up for next Wednesday night ride, and I'll bring a bike for you. If I didn't ride, I'd weigh 300 pounds. I struggle to stay at 200, but that's the fact. I ride hard. Anybody that knows me knows how hard I ride, and I would be a lot heavier. Yeah, so that's all I got to say, except Brad, how old are you? 67. Brad's 67. He's a rider, too. You're not too old to ride. And we have rides every Wednesday nights. Just come on and join us. Look us up fast. And just join us.
We appreciate it. At this time, we took care of the 25 people who had signed up, and we're going to go ahead and close open forum at this time and move into reports from the advisory committees. First one is Lakes. Do we have a representative from Lakes? If not, would you take it for us, Jerry, please? Be sure you speak right into the mic.
Okay, I will report for the Lakes Committee since I'm one of the Board of Directors liaison to the committee. Matt Champlain.
Right into the mic, please.
Pardon?
Louder.
Okay.
Push it to you. Yeah.
Okay, Matt Champlain, Call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. There was determined to be a quorum. The minutes of the meetings will be final after they are approved. At this point in time, they're not approved. And part of the report was from Rick Eccles, in which he distributed a table of corresponding graphs of the Lake Ranger contact data and boat hours. Those will also be posted when they are finally approved. The number of lake rangers this past summer, we've had 7 rangers during the summertime. That's May through September. In the edge months, October through April, there are 5 rangers that are working, and then there are 3 during the winter months. The Windsor Lake drawdown will begin on November 7th. Okay, it will continue until about March 1st. We all have to recognize, though, that Windsor can refill many times depending upon weather conditions. So we're going to try and keep it down the best that we can. They will continue to do the monthly lake and stream monitoring, and the water quality data will be presented in December. Other maintenance items were completed during the time. And under new business, further discussion was over the wake boats. And the committee has recommended that we study that another year, simply because there's only a handful of wake boats at the present time using the lakes, and we cannot find any resource damages that have occurred due to them. So we want to study that a little bit further, and we've improved some monitoring methods to make sure of what we're seeing. The next Lakes JAC committee meeting will be December 12th at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Jerry. Recreation, do we have a representative from Recreation? Gary.
I have not seen Jason.
Maybe Susan's going
My name's Gary Griffin with the Recreation Committee. I'm going to cover a few things that we covered in our last meeting, which was on 10/8. We do amenity reports for just about everything except lakes, except golf, and except the trails. So we have about 14 different things that we cover on a monthly basis. For Branchwood, parking lots have been redone. The new parking lots that we have there have been full. We've gotten a lot more play from the reopening, with a lot more people attending classes and using the amenities there as well. Gun ranges, recently we held a barbecue that was a success that had about 45 attendees, and at this point in time they're also laying another line for another trap lane. RV storage lots have been repacked and surfaced. The target completion date to open those up so people can get their stuff back in is December 1st. At the Loch Lomond complex, it's in good shape overall. There's a little maintenance to be done on the bathrooms, but other than that, they're in good shape. The Metfield complex, our team out there talked to a family that was playing mini golf. Very happy with it. There is a little repair that needs to be done to that, and that's one of the things that we recommended earlier. Now, at the new meet and greet that we had last month, we had several members, we had 85 new people there. We also had a few folks that were talking about volleyball. Do we play volleyball here? Do we have any teams, or where can we play? There is a group that plays at the beach on Monday nights, and we got that information out to that person who's responsible for that to see if we can get anything else done. And one of the things that our committee works on is to continue to go ahead and interface with anybody who is at their amenities while they're reviewing them, or if they're at other amenities, to talk to people about the recreation, what they like about it, What do they think could be added to it? Is there anything else that they could tell us relative to the Recreation Committee so we can take it back to our committee and then present things to the board? Our next meeting is going to be on November 12th. If you want to find out more about what we do, come on in. It's at 4 o'clock. It's at the board. It's at the boardroom. And with that, if there are any questions. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Representative from the Golf Committee. There he is. Jason? Did you say me from community involvement?
Jason Lloyd, Chairman of the Golf Committee. Our meeting was a few weeks ago, and just some quick highlights. We congratulated Daryl Muldoon on his recent promotion to Director of Golf Operations. The committee voted on presenting to the board to eliminate the players' assistance for 2019, saving some approximately $80,000. Some cool things that are happening. The junior program in Bella Vista had 9 of high school students make All-State in 7A and 4A, and which is great for Daryl and his team. And we have 2 seniors, one from Gravette and one from Pea Ridge, that are going to get scholarships to college. So great programs and things are going on. They have hired a new pro, Hillary, out at Tanya Creek. She's going to handle Tanya Creek facility. She's an LPGA player, has played LPGA events. She went to Cincinnati, I believe, University, and won some events in the collegiate level. She's going to be focusing on the junior program, club fittings, lessons, and club fittings and sales, of course. Lessons in the junior program out there. The other one, if you want me to go ahead and cover the new committee, Tom, we have, I guess from the recommendation of the board, started a new committee. I am also the chairman of that one. Our last meeting, we went over basically trying to figure out a name for the committee. It's a cross-functional committee. 2 representatives from the Golf Committee, Recreation Committee, Lakes Committee, and the Community Involvement Committee. And so we're trying to develop a committee from all aspects of the community to take on some projects for the future, trails, event centers, whatever, just some different opportunities to help the board as each individual committee does, but it's a cross-functional. So our next meeting on that one, that particular committee is going to be in November 29th, where we're going to get the name, the mission statement completed, and start talking about our first projects that we're going to take on. So that's about it. The next golf committee is November 14th. We are changing times to in the morning at 8:30 due to the winter, and it's at the Bella Vista Country Club boardroom. So anybody come, got any questions?
Thank you. Leah, on the master calendar, I saw that it was still listed as 4 o'clock. In November, it changes to 8:30.
8:30, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Community involvement. There he is.
I always have a nice crowd when I talk.
Thank you.
I'm Dylan Shaddix, and I'm the co-secretary of the Community Involvement Committee. And our main discussion in the October meeting, which was 3 weeks ago, was about the coat drive that the POA Community Involvement Committee is doing starting November 1st, and it will go through November 30th. So our drop-off locations will be such as all the POA recreational shops, the golf shops, Java Dudes, Allen's, Harps, and the Arvest locations, and there's some other ones, but those will be listed on the POA website very soon. And I advertised it, or I shared it on Facebook yesterday, I believe. And I went by Allen's yesterday, and a lady donated 28 coats already before the event even started. Good. We had 217 coats last year, so that's a good start. But that was the main discussion of the October meeting, and if anybody has any coats to donate, you can contact me. If you don't want to go to those locations, my number is 479-721-1766, and I'll personally come meet you to get those coats. And those coats will be donated to the schools that the Bella Vista kids go to, such as Cooper Elementary, the Gravett School, TJ, Sugar Creek, and there might be one other. I don't remember at the moment. But any leftovers will be going to the DEB project, which helps foster families in Bentonville. Our next meeting will be November 1st at 6 o'clock at the Country Club.
Thank you. Am I correct, Dylan, that it is gently used coats for kids and adults as well? Because there are some of the older kids who need adult sizes?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
if you have gently used coats or new coats and like to donate it, they would greatly appreciate it. Okay, that takes care of the advisory committees. Let's move on to Rules and Rec Committee report.
Your old business. We could do old business. Old business.
Of each section.
Yes.
That's what I've got next.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Give me a second.
If we read something else, we can switch.
No. I messed up.
Okay. Let's talk about that when we go over policies. Okay, we're going to talk about that as we go over policies. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the dependent cards then.
Under dependent cards, at the last regular board meeting, the issue regarding the limiting of the number of guests for a dependent card holder was tabled and sent to the Rules and Regulations Committee. The Rules and Regulations Committee met on October 4th and recommended this issue should remain under observation and consideration for another year before any action is taken. The Lakes Committee was informed on October 17th of this recommendation, and they wanted to make sure that for the 2019 budget that we ensure that the higher number of lake rangers is incorporated into the budget. That was their recommendation.
Okay, any questions on that? If not, we'll move into the wake boats concern.
The Lakes Committee made two recommendations regarding wake boats. First is to modify the sign-up form to include a determination of a wake boat, a boat that can take on ballast, so that we can track the number of boats that fall into this category, and we can track those over a lengthy time period. Also, as mentioned previously, the committee recommended no decrease in the number of lake rangers for the 2019 budget, so that they can continue to monitor the lakes and wake boat use on the lakes.
And my understanding is the wake boats are relatively new in the last 3 or 4 years.
That's correct.
So
And
the issue is coming up now.
Yeah, and we're trying to accurately determine the number of wake boats on our lakes and how much of an impact they are having. And then if we can track them over an extended period of time, we can get an idea if they're growing in use.
Okay.
A wake boat, I'm not a boater, so I apologize if I get anything wrong here, but a wake boat takes on ballast and at a slower speed can create a larger wake, which at times can be disruptive and cause damage to the shoreline. Earlier this year, our regulations were modified to extend how far out the boat must be from the shoreline, from 100 feet to 150 feet. That answer your question?
Okay, moving on. At this time, let's move to new business. The first item on the agenda is voting the POA lots. I'd like to have a motion to discuss that topic.
Excuse me, I'll make the motion. And the motion would be that the Board of Directors will not vote the lots in an affirmative action at the next assessment election.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, please.
Yeah, I know we've looked at an option of voting a percentage and of the votes to not sway the vote, but to help create a quorum if the next assessment vote doesn't have a quorum. And we've also discussed a third option, not part of this motion, but related to the same topic, that as in the past votes, we voted for, these votes were cast for the 600 lots to both assist the positive result and to help with a quorum. And my only concern in regards to not voting or to voting proportional, my concern is I've got a good feeling, because we've had good community input regarding the latest attempt at an assessment vote, and we've gotten good ideas from people, and we will develop more of those during the spring. And I've got a feeling that when we go out and present this assessment concept to the community next year, that we may get 55–60% in favor, and we spent $38,000, but we won't achieve a quorum if we don't vote these 600 lots that amount to 2.5–3% of the total to meet a quorum. If we get 55% for it and we miss the quorum, then we've kind of wasted $38,000. So that's the other concept, or the other opinion on it, that I'm expressing.
Other discussion or concerns?
My concern is with the statement of what Jerry said. As I heard him, I thought he was saying that we would not vote in favor of these lots, in favor of the assessment, and rather than not voting the lots at all. And I think the option number one doesn't have anything to do with the direction of the vote, but simply the fact that we would not vote the lots either way.
That was my understanding, that your proposal was we do not vote the lots at all. Is that correct?
So you'll have to amend your motion, Jerry.
In order to make it clear to everyone, the motion would be that we would not vote the lots at the next election for the assessment.
Thank you. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay.
Discussion as, go ahead.
I need to clarify a little bit more. My personal feeling is that the assessment is needed. Okay, if we miss, I mean, I see people shaking their heads no and everything else. Okay, it's very obvious that we cannot continue to provide the services that we've been providing the last couple of years on the current amount of dollars that are available. Okay, the last assessment was 2001. Okay, things have changed an awful lot in that amount of time. So we do need the assessment, or the amount of facilities, the maintenance levels and so on are going to deteriorate, or we have to raise fees in order to make up for it. We don't want to raise fees. We want to actually, if we can, even reduce or eliminate. But we have to have some kind of balance some way or another. And I believe that as a person, we need that assessment. I don't like not voting the lots because we may miss that quorum. But I think it's what we're hearing from the majority of people. And I'm not just saying the loudest negative detractors. We're hearing it from other places and so on, just to this time not vote the lots. And so therefore I make the motion to do so.
And to continue the discussion, one other problem with that is we will have a turnover of board members, 3 or 4 new board members elected next May, and I really don't think it's plausible for this board to dictate something to the next board if this assessment vote doesn't happen during this term of this board. So perhaps your motion could be amended to say this board if it happens prior to May. I hate to tie down the next board because we'll have a pretty good turnover.
Excuse me, please. Excuse me. Any other comments?
Every board, though, takes on, I don't want to call it baggage, but I will call it baggage, from the previous board, so speaking to.
I began several years ago pushing for a vote of the board in favor of an assessment increase. The rationale that I gave at that point in time was that we would not be approving going forward with an assessment vote if we didn't think that was in the best interest of the community. And I still think that makes sense. However, I agree with what Jerry said. That is that we have heard from the community, and the community has said, do not vote those lots. I also think that that's not a good decision because if we don't make quorum, it's going to cost us $38,000. And a number of people this evening spoke about fiscal responsibility. And I don't know how wise that is to not vote the lots according to the percentage of votes that are cast by the community. So I think we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. I think that the community has spoken, and yet at the same time I think that the community hasn't given full thought to what they are asking us to do. I don't think the community has given us full thought that they want to spend an additional $38,000 if the quorum is not met. However,
excuse me, please.
However, let me please speak.
We have closed open forum. Go ahead.
I think that the vote to not cast the lot, to cast a vote on the lots, is laid perfectly on the feet and on the arms of the people who are telling us not to vote. And so, if you're willing to take that risk, I would say go ahead with it. But you need to know that that is your vote. That is your position. And what you're asking us to do is assent to your decision. I don't like it, but I'll do it.
Okay. Do we have
You might
other
also,
comments, please?
You might also add to that, Pat, that if we don't meet quorum on the first vote, that within 90 days we can revisit, put the exact same.
At the cost of another $38,000.
And plus, the quorum is cut in half.
Yes.
At that point.
Yes.
So
right.
most likely we would meet quorum.
I have every confidence that we don't need those 600 odd lots to get a quorum in this next election, and I'll stand by that. That's my piece.
David?
I too have been talking to a lot of members of the community out and about, not any particular group. And what I find is people tell me, vote them, don't vote them, I don't care. Just get an assessment increase. Our assessment is ridiculous. So if we have to bow to some certain element and not vote the lots, which my personal feeling is that it is our responsibility to do everything in our power to get an assessment increase passed if we think that's the right thing to do. I will bow to the majority here tonight, and if the majority says do not vote the lots, I'll go that way. And like Pat says, we risk another $38,000, and we know where the liability for that will rest. It's not us being irresponsible.
Okay. Anything else before we take a vote?
Just one more comment. The sounding I get in the community from lots of friends and acquaintances is that the part of the assessment proposal that was the most onerous to the community was the $14 million community center that would have put us into debt. It wasn't necessarily $10 or $2. It was that got the uproar of the community, in my opinion. That's strictly my opinion from the feedback that I've got from a lot of people. And you can rest assured that the next proposal will have an alternative concept for Reardon Hall or community center, and it'll be a lesser amount that wouldn't put us in debt. And I have real strong confidence that the next proposal will be really well received by the community and as we go out and present it. So again, I know I'm in the minority vote here, but I want to express my comments.
Okay, at this time, shall we call for the motion?
All in favor of the motion from Jerry?
That we will not vote the lots at this next assessment
This
election.
board will not vote the lots.
I also hold Mike Abbs proxy, and he votes yes.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries.
So we will not be voting lots for the next assessment. Moving on to proposed changes in the bylaws.
Yeah, let me start that because
Please do.
I didn't really, that was part of the meetings that we had with rules and regs, and then as well submitted to the board in the work session a week ago, some policy changes, and Doug can explain each of them as we go through it.
There's a number of changes, mostly emanating from the appointment of committee members, so it necessitated a number of changes. Number one, to the bylaws, Article 8 of the bylaws. We removed a reference to a couple of committees that no longer meet or exist, so that's Article 8. There's red line versions in your packet there as well. Then there were changes to policy 1.01. Again, all these changes were just made to clarify how committee members are appointed. Policy 1.01 and policy changes to policy 1.03. Guidelines for association committees. The policy 1.03.3 is removed. That was a reference to a marketing and communications committee. And then 1.03.8, I believe, is a resource and advisory committee that no longer meets. Changes to policy 1.04, joint advisory committees. Again, there were references to those committees that no longer meet. So a lot of these were uniforming up the language with regard to that change.
I'd like to make a comment, if I could, for the audience. These changes that Doug proposed were reviewed thoroughly by the Rules and Regulations Committee, and after approval by the Rules and Regulations Committee were then sent to the full board. And the full board considered each of the changes very carefully and found them all to be consistent with the way in which we were reforming the policies, rules, and regulations, standardizing language, et cetera, due to the fine work that Doug has done. I would say that you can have full confidence that we have thoroughly reviewed these documents, and that our proposal that we accept the documents as amended by Doug McCash and others on the committee is made not without due consideration and careful study.
This is the first reading tonight of 2 readings. There'll be another one next month, and I understand we need to do each one separately.
Yes.
Okay. Just call for a vote.
Do you want to read the motions, or do you want me to do it?
I can take care of that. I make a motion to approve the changes to bylaws Article 8. This is the first of 2 required readings.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? As we said, we've talked about all these, and they're in your packet. All those in favor? Okay. I make a motion to approve the changes to policy 1.01, and this is also the first of 2 readings required. Second? Okay. Discussion? Call for a vote.
All in favor?
And Mike is not voting, is this correct? Okay.
Yeah, so on all these, Mike is abstaining.
Abstaining on all these.
And David Brandenburg seconded that motion.
Yeah. Next motion. I make a motion to approve the changes to policy 1.03. It is also the first of 2 required readings.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion? If not, I call for a vote.
All in favor?
I make a motion to eliminate policy 1.03.3. This is also the first of 2 required readings. Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, please accept and vote.
All in favor?
I make a motion to eliminate policy 1.03.7, the first of 2 required readings.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? If not, those...
All in favor?
I make a motion to approve the changes to policy 1.04. This also is a first reading of 2 required readings.
So move.
Second? Second, okay. Any discussion? If not, that's also in your packet.
All in favor?
I make a motion to approve the change of policy to 1.05. This is the first of 2 required readings. Motion? Second?
David first?
Yes.
Whatever.
And David second. Discussion? If not, call for a vote.
All in favor?
And the final one, I make a motion to approve the changes to policy 8.03. This is also first of 2 required readings. Motion? Second?
Jerry and David.
And a discussion?
All in favor?
Thank you.
Wanted to make a further comment that all of these changes are available on the POA's website in the governance section. There's a red line version available, so if you do not have a copy, you can go to the website and see that.
Okay, next item on the agenda is new golf rounds report for September.
In your packet, at last month's meeting, it was requested that we draw out a few items regarding the new rounds report, and the new rounds report is now available on our website. But a number of things that were noticed is that total rounds compared to 2017 are down by 8,700 rounds. Part of this is due to the harsh winter and the extended closure of Scottsdale. But even with the reopening of Scottsdale, overall rounds decreased in September by 1,070. Non-member rounds are up for the year by 2,057. At the end of August, the increase in rounds was 1,625. So in September alone, you saw a 425 round increase. Also of note is that Brittany's total rounds are down. They're at 4,985 compared to 6,149 for at this time this year. And total tournament rounds, member and non-member rounds, have increased over prior year by 228.
Okay, any questions on the golf report?
Could you, it's my understanding that the data that we have about the counting the number of
Microphone,
rounds.
please.
Oh, I'm sorry. That the data we have concerning the number of rounds became more accurate when the new system was installed. This new software system, is that correct? Is that a correct assumption?
Not just the new software system, but also the coding that we put through in 2016 made it more accurate.
Okay. And to that effect, I was wondering if you could ask Daryl to give us comparative statistics instead of prior year to include any information that we can get with regard to 2016 that he has confidence in. And the reason for that is simply to see what get a look at trends.
We don't have a tremendous, I personally do not have a tremendous amount of confidence in the 16 round information.
Enough said.
Revenue I do because it's audited
Enough said.
information, but rounds I
Enough said.
don't.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, before we take announcements tonight, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and cooperating and your patience you've had with us. It's been much appreciated by the board, and we thank you. The announcements, the GM meeting will be held Thursday, November 1st. In November and December, we move everything back up a week because of the holidays, so it doesn't fall right on Christmas and Thanksgiving. The date has changed to November 1st at 9 o'clock. This is a closed session. The board work session is the community budget presentation is the 8th of November at 6 o'clock here in Reardon Hall. So next month it will be here in Reardon Hall, the work session. And it's on the budget. So if you're interested in the budget, please come out and view it with us. Remember the change of date and location. The regular board meeting will be held Tuesday, November 15th at 6:30. At this time, it's also a change of date. At this time, we're planning on the country club, but we'll see from here. The GM meeting for December will be the December 6th, and the work session will be the 19th at 9 o'clock, and that's the boardroom at the country club. Those are open date, or those are open meetings, and that is also a change of date. 13th, you like that day better? Okay. December 13th at 9 o'clock, and then the regular board meeting will be December 20th at 6:30 in the boardroom at the country club.